Well, good morning. Jim Sunderwirth from the swing. Hey, it's good to be with you today. Listen, I want you to know without a shadow of a doubt that yes, the blood covenant we talked about yesterday is so important. But we as Christians, Jesus took all of our sins. I mean, we're saved by faith. We're saved by grace, putting our trust in Jesus Christ for what He has done for us. We've exchanged. Yet in Hebrews 9:22, it does say that in the law is covered by blood, and there's no without the shedding of blood, there's no remission of sin. So that it had to happen. And in 1 Corinthians, I believe it's 10:11, it says that the things in the Old Testament are examples to us and admonitions to us to help us to understand what Jesus Christ really did for us. Now, that's why when we talked yesterday about where God cut the animals in half and the blood was shed and they walked through that, that was a covenant. God saying, what's mine is yours, and Abraham was saying, what's mine is God's. And so you have to say that's a pretty good exchange, to think about God saying, I'm going to be bonded with you, I'm going to take care of you in every respect. Now, I told you yesterday too that I would give you an illustration, and I'd read this a number of years back, but it's an illustration of a man named Dr. Livingston, who was a missionary to Africa. And another man, Mr. Stanley, he was an explorer, and he wanted to find Livingston in Africa. And so he went there to find him. I believe he was a writer and an explorer. So as he was searching for Dr. Livingston in Africa, in the equatorial place, they found the tribes were very, very warlike and vicious. And Stanley said, look, all my supplies, everything I had, equipment-wise, and my people and everything, they would be stolen. He said, I'd have to put guards around everything every night because I'd wake up and they'd be gone. And so he said he got so frustrated he couldn't find Livingston because he was always trying to regroup, and get stuff back together. One guy told him, he said, I'll tell you how you can stop this. He said, how's that? He said, you cut the covenant with the chief. And he said, what do you mean cut the covenant with the chief? He said, you do a blood covenant with that chief and you'll see the difference. He said, well, what is it? So he told him, and he said, well, you know what? If it'll stop this and I can find Livingston, I'm going to do it. So they got together and they put it together where the chief checked his motives. They talked to each other. What would you do for me? What will I do for you? And they had the check the motives, why he wanted it. And then they gave each other a gift, and then they cut the covenant. Well, the thing was, he said, we said what we was going to do for each other, and then he said, the gift was, the chief wanted my goat, and my goat that gave me milk, and I had a bad stomach, and I needed that goat, but he wanted my goat. And so he said, I had to give him my goat. And all he gave me was a long stick wrapped in copper wire. And he gave me that stick, and I said, what in the world? I got a bad deal on this. Anyway, so then he brought one of his warriors out, and Dr. Livingston brought one of his guys from the young men from his group, and they cut the covenant. In other words, they cut, and they took some wine, they put a drop of blood in each one of them, they sipped it, and then they put their arms together, and then they put gunpowder in those so they see that scar always there. Then they went out and they planted a tree, and each one planted a tree that would be forever there, and that covenant was made. Now he said, now here's what happened after that. Stanley said, and he had to cut the covenant, he said, 50 times. Oh man, that poor guy that had to do it all the time. Anyway, so what happened was, wherever he went, he could put all of his equipment, all his supplies, he could lay it in the middle of the street. And he would, when he carried that rod, when he carried that stick, it was just a stick wrapped in copper, those people knew that was the chief of that area. And the chief said, come, buy and sell. These people are our blood brothers. What is ours is theirs. What is theirs is ours. And instead of being an enemy, instead of being one who stole from them, they were aggressive in their giving and sharing and protecting. He never had to use his men for protectors anymore because he had cut the covenant with the chief. And the chief said, what's mine's yours. What's yours is mine. Now, they did put curses on them if they broke it, and they put blessings on them if they kept it. They said, I never in one time did I ever hear of one of those covenants being broken. Wow, what an illustration. And that's what our God has done for us. He's, through his son Jesus, made a covenant, and it will not be broken. Aren't you glad for that today? I'll see you tomorrow.